go. Sir,
She's not like,
is that a yes? Thank you.
is this the management?
Yeah.
Please rise. This is the
Tony had to leave?
Town of Rye Council meeting of September the 20th, 2016. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and let's have Mr. Oling lead us tonight.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Heavenly Father, bless this assemblage. Grant us the wisdom to make our every decision fair-minded and in the best interest for all its residents. And I think it's appropriate to just have a moment of silence, considering the dynamics that we are facing throughout the world and throughout the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Lindsay Jackson.
Here.
Thomas Nardi.
Here.
Oh, Councilperson William Villanova.
Here.
And Supervisor Gary Zuckerman.
Here, and Councilman Baxter was here earlier, but I'd like to note that this meeting is starting at almost 9 o'clock instead of 7:30, and he had to leave. So please mark him as present for purposes of any absences that may be counted. We have minutes for August 16th and the special meeting held August 30th. If there are no changes, additions, or corrections, may I have a motion and a second for both of them?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll make a second. Sorry.
All in
Council-
favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. We have a presentation this evening from O'Connor Davies, our independent auditor, who will present the audit report for 2015.
Good evening. My name is Scott Oling. I'm one of the partners at O'Connor Davies, and I'm joined tonight by Jeff Shaver, another partner with the firm. And we are here tonight to present the results of the annual external audit that we performed on the town's financial statements for the year that ended December 31st of 2015. After the table of contents in the audit report packet that you have is the first two pages of the report after the table of contents are the independent auditor's report. This is really the only part of this entire packet that really belongs to us. Even though we prepare this on behalf of the town, this is the only part that really belongs to the auditors. It basically says that we've issued what's known as an unmodified or clean opinion on the town's finances, meaning that we believe that these financial statements fairly present the town's results of operations for the year ended December 31st, 2015. I'm going to have Jeff take you through some of the detail. Your primary fund here is your general fund. And Jeff's going to take you through that. The income statement for the general fund appears on page 36 of the document. And he will take you through some of the highlights of what happened financially on the town's books for 2015.
Thank you, Scott. On pages 36 and 37 of the financial statements is the general fund comparative schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, budget and actual. On page 36 is 2015, and on page 37 is 2014. This is a 4-column presentation with the original budget in the left column, the final budget encompassing any revisions in the second column, the third column is actual results, and the fourth column is the variance between the final budget and the actual results. The original budget as adopted was $2.954 million. Actual revenues for the year were $3.3 million. That's a positive budgetary variance of $358,000. Some of the items that make up that variance is in the real property tax line. And that's because there's an adjustment when you collect taxes, when your tax collections go up, your allowance for taxes goes down, and that increases the property tax revenue line. So the positive variance is a result of collections going up.
And that's collections essentially of prior year taxes. So any prior year taxes that had not been collected could not be recognized in revenues in the years for which that tax was levied. Now that those homeowners or businesses came in and paid some of those back taxes, that added to your property tax revenue numbers for 2015.
Another major variance in 2015 was in state aid. Now, the positive budgetary variance was $224,000, and most of that was a result of additional mortgage tax collected in excess of the budget.
Excuse me, why is that under state aid instead of other tax items?
Well, New York State, in its uniform system of accounts for accounting, I guess wants credit for the mortgage tax, and so it's coded as a state aid code in the state's system. That's all I can tell you about that.
Now, how much of the 1.2 million was mortgage tax?
851,000.
Yeah, if you turn to page 38 and 39 give you a little more detail of the revenues that we're discussing on page 36. And towards the bottom of page 38, near the fold, you'll see the various state aid categories. In your case, it's the per capita aid, the mortgage tax, and some miscellaneous other stuff. So 850 of the 1.2 million
Right,
is
okay.
from the mortgage tax.
Thank you.
Moving down the page on the expenditure side of the budget, the original budget was $2.917 million. There were no revisions during the year. Actual expenditures were $2.756 million. That's a positive budgetary variance of $161,000, or roughly 0.5% of your total budget. In other financing sources and uses, you'll see a transfer of $200,000 to fund capital projects, and a net change in fund balance of $343,000. And the budgetary variance was $500,000, because when you adopted your budget, you anticipated utilizing $170,000 of your fund balance. So $170,000 was adopted as appropriated fund balance in your 15 budget. Because you generated $513,000 of surplus, it resulted in a actual positive increase in your fund balance of $343,000.
Yeah, so, in essence, when this budget was adopted for 2015, there was a plan that if everything came in on budget, your fund balance would have declined $170,000, because the plan had you spending more than you were taking in. But because you have fund balance or savings account, when the budget was adopted, you said, we'll use some of our savings account to pay our bills. That's the plan. And because of the positive result, primarily from the mortgage tax and the better than expected property tax collections, and some savings on the expenditure side of the budget, those two forces, coupled together, allowed you not only to not use $170,000 and deplete your fund balance, but actually to add $343,000. So that's why the variance is a positive $500,000.
So if you turn back one page, you'll see the general fund balance sheet on page 35. And you'll see 2015 on the left side and 2014 on the right side. The second number from the bottom, $4,115,000. That's the general fund's total fund balance as of December 31st, 2015. Of that, $3,098,000 is unassigned or for use at the discretion of the board. And that represents roughly 100% of your expenditure budget, which is considered a very healthy fund balance.
And obviously, as the town of Rye, your primary function here, as you could see, both on the top side of this balance sheet, your biggest asset of the total assets of $59 million, your biggest asset is $53 million in the middle section there for taxes receivable, all the taxes that you collect for the school districts, the villages, the county. Those are in that number. So you have, at December 31st, because of timing, and mostly because of the school taxes, that the second half school taxes are not due till January, 53 million of your 59 million is in taxes receivable. The flip side of that is in the liability section, as you can see, where you have, at December 31st, $54 million owed to the various municipalities, primarily the school districts, for the second half of the property taxes. So, you know, as such, obviously collecting these taxes obviously is extremely important to the town, because you are required by law to make those other municipalities whole. You have to pay them whether you collect the money or not. So it's very important, given the small size of the town. Other towns that have the same responsibility of making their school districts whole have their own bigger pot of their own resources to deal with. You have a very, you know, small $3 million operation, but you are required, you know, to be paying, I think, $150 million.
I think it's more than that.
Maybe more than that. You know, over $150 million of somebody else's taxes. So if a whole bunch of people don't pay their taxes, or a whole bunch of businesses don't pay their taxes, that would be a significant situation.
But we make
for
sure
the
they
town.
do, because
We
Mr.
make sure.
Meck is sitting right behind
That's
you,
right.
sends out those tax bills
Yes.
and gets the money. And if they don't pay, Mr. Noto over here brings an
Yes.
action to collect it.
I will be visiting next week. And tell you what, so, yes, so, you know, as Jeff said, the majority of your fund balance of the total of 4 million, 3 million, you know, 3.1 million, which is essentially a full year's worth, you know, operation for your situation, is in fund balance. So you're really in a very strong position based on, you know, where this financial statement ended 2015.
Good. Thank you.
I have a quick question. So you consider that 59 million as an asset as per GASB standards?
Yes. Taxes receivable is, taxes receivable and all the other things, the cash and the other stuff are assets under modified accrual accounting for governmental funds.
But Dave, when we bond or when we,
Just gonna ask that.
just,
Go ahead.
right? Dave, when we bond, we can't say that we have $59,000 in assets.
Well, the reason why is at December 31st is because the school taxes,
I'm 59 million, I'm sorry.
the school taxes are levied in September, and they're collected in two halves, in September and the second half is January. So the second half is not billed yet, but it is still a receivable as of December 31st. And then it gets billed in January, and then we start the collections on it.
I have a question for you. We are about to seek guidance to go for a bond rating. When the people who do that, when the people who give the bond rating look and they see that we have $59 million, do they go behind that? Or do they actually say, oh, they have $59 million in assets? Or do they actually try to figure out that that money's going to leave?
Well, they
In
also
about a
see,
month.
but they also see that you have $55 million
Yeah, well.
in liabilities.
That's true.
So
Okay.
they're gonna look at the $4
They-
million fund balance, and in particular, they will look at the 3.1 million unassigned, which is the free and clear portion of the 4 million, because the other is set aside
And
for.
they, I assume they
for-
also look at the total tax assessment of the town.
Yes, they will
How
look
large
at
that is.
many factors, but certainly, you know, this balance sheet is a key factor for them. Yes.
Any other questions? None? No. If not, we have a resolution to accept the audit report, and this doesn't mean that we agree with everything in it. It means we're accepting it and
Hopefully.
saying it's ours. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Councilpersons Jackson,
Yes.
Nardi,
Yes.
Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you. And we have our account. I don't know if you want to say anything, Navy. Navy's sat through the last presentation at the commission and was very helpful with some issues there. Do you have anything, or do you just want to sit back on this one and relax?
No, I'll just add that, So we took this opportunity to clean up the books. We went through the balance sheet and some accounts that had been sitting there dormant for many, many years. And the audit team and the partners at O'Connor Davies were extremely helpful in giving us some history on some of the accounts, and letting us know that some of them required some adjustment and so forth. So I think in terms of the books for the town of Rye and the starting point as of January 1st, I think we're in a very good place. We're posting all of the audit adjustments. We've gone through some management recommendations. We're in agreement with all the recommendations they made as far as accounting is concerned, and we've working with Dave Byrne on them as well. I thought it was a pretty smooth audit, considering that it was a first time out for us and for the administration. And I just want to thank them because they helped a lot in terms of cleaning up and giving us history, because there was no transition. It's not like we came in and there was an accountant and there was some explanation of some of the accounts. And as you guys know, a lot of the previous accounts were maintained on ledger paper. And so we've now used Peachtree as our Bible, and everything's in there effective with the 12/31 balances, and kept up to date through today, deposits, transactions, journal entries, and everything. And we're, the one thing that I think is noteworthy is that we have an ongoing dialogue with the auditors. So if we have a question on a transaction, they've been wonderful in terms of, even with some of the internal control recommendations that they've made to management that we want to make sure we implement, so that the audit continues to be smooth for 2016, and that we are all behaving or running the organization in accordance with their recommendations.
Good, thank you. And I'd like to point out something. There is a management letter, and in that letter, one item that we're going to address in the next budget is maintaining a detailed schedule of balances for capital assets. That's, I understand, has been a comment for a long time. So we are going to seek and retain a firm to schedule all our assets, all the assets that the town owns, de novo, and at that point, we are going to maintain a constant list of our assets and depreciate them accordingly, according to proper accounting techniques. Right, Mr. Auditors? That's what we need to do, right? Okay, that's what we will do. So, I guess we, am I slipping here? We did have a motion and a second, we did accept that report, correct?
Yes, we
Yes.
Okay, good. Next item is the.
Thank you guys for your patience.
Yeah, they're leaving now.
Short ride.
I'm jealous.
We can take comments from the public, and I would say let's have comments from the public, but all the public has left.
We're
So-
less entertaining than the party.
We're left entertaining, yes. Resolution regarding CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Improvements to Crawford Park. This is a resolution to declare the park improvements that are being planned as a type 2 action, which require no further environmental review. May I have a motion and a second for that, please?
So moved.
Can I just ask a quick question, because I know there's several.
Can we have a second first?
Yes, I'll second.
No discussion? Go ahead. What, Lindsay?
I was just wondering, now, for this is for the seeker, is this for, are we doing the seeker for the Crawford Park renovations piecemeal, or does this include the entire, the mansion and the playgrounds?
The mansion and the playground, all of the, if you look at it, it's all of the.
Third paragraph.
Oh,
And pavilion.
and pavilion, okay.
It says handicapped accessible and non-handicapped accessible. So it's, we're dealing with,
Including the landscaping.
Okay, so it's the whole kit and caboodle.
Right. so we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilpersons Jackson,
Yes.
Nardi,
Yes.
Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes. And our next resolution is from the court system. We don't often see that.
Actually, we do.
Actually, hold it, we see this once a year, but that's it. This is a once-a-year thing. This is for the clerk of the court to apply for a Justice Court Assistance Program grant of $30,000 for a variety of purposes, including security equipment, furniture, courtroom and court facility improvements, and renovations. May I have a motion and second for that, please?
So moved. Second it.
Call the roll, please.
Councilpersons Jackson,
Aye.
Nardi,
Yes.
Villanova,
Yes.
and Supervisor Zuckerman.
Yes, now we have our reports. The assessor is away. Let me skip Crawford for a minute and get to finance. Or receiver of finance. We'll do finance. Go ahead, David.
Just real quick, I provided the board with a copy of the monthly tax receivable summary. And on page 2, I just want to make one quick note. On page 2 of the report, I just listed there was 4 properties that were in-rent properties that were sold, and the proceeds, the gain on sale for those 4 properties was $432,000. There's 2 more properties that are,
You're not up to date. Mr. Noto will give that report shortly.
well, there's 2 more properties that closed in September, but this is through August. So
Okay.
that just through August, we're at $432,000. The budget for that gain is $200,000 for 2016, so we're over budget, which is a great thing.
It's better than the other way.
Yes.
While, Nick, you want to give the receiver's report? Or do you have anything, don't get up. Do you have anything other than what's presented?
Yes, just to remind everybody that the month is marching by, and if you are responsible for paying your school taxes, you really should get them in the mail, because come the 30th, you will have a 2% penalty added on top of that. Okay? Number 2, it's a presidential election, and every 4 years, the Board of Elections is mandated to have open registrations. So we will have 2 days, not days, but nights, that we will register people. We will be open at 222 Grace Church Street on Thursday, October 13th, from 5 to 9, and on Saturday, October 15th, from 12 to 9. It will be located in the first floor conference room in the Village of Portchester Village Hall, 222 Grace Church Street. We will have signs up. Anyone that comes in, they will be directed there to vote. Okay, so anyone that needs to vote, please come either of those times and get registered. Okay? You can also pick up an absentee application if you need. Any questions?
No? Thank
No?
you, Nick.
All set? Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to supplement Nick's report. As you are all aware, last year, there was some controversy over something called exemptions terminated, and the receiver for the school tax year just starting has in fact properly allocated according to the law. The exemptions that were terminated in prior years and credited it to the school district. I'm sure it's kind of short-circuiting the explanation, but that's what we did. We're on course with that problem area that occurred previously, but the receiver has allocated things as they are supposed to be allocated. So, thank you, Mr. Receiver.
My pleasure.
We have the town clerk. Do you have anything to add to your report? Hope, nothing?
No, not this time.
Actually, I just because I know the exemptions terminated was a big deal, and I'm glad that we finally allocated it out. That was taken from our, I'm assuming, the general fund?
No, it is not taken from any place. What it is it's an adjustment in the rates going forward. Because see,
Sorry.
the exemptions for veterans or for all aged, seniors, so forth and so on, are shared by the fellow taxpayers. The STAR, that comes directly from the state. That's outside the taxpayers' money. So if somebody passes away or the house is sold,
They transfer.
the exemption ceases. So that money is billed to the new people or the estate. When that comes in, I have to adjust the rates to lower the collections for the next year to offset the previous rates that were charged. Do you follow me?
Yep, no, I understand that.
But no money is involved in the town or the schools. The schools get their full levies. We pay whatever they tell us to do, and the wording on the levies that I receive is you are commanded to collect, and that's the money they get. This is just in the collection from the individual taxpayers that were more or less overassessed now to have a little relief, but most people don't even know the difference. The only ones that do are the ones that get a big exemption terminated bill, which many times, I feel sorry for them, but when you really come to realize, for whatever period of time, that person that owned that house was paying that much less tax. So henceforth, it's something that has to be brought up to date. So, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. The superintendent of highways, not here, but I just wanted to say that regarding the Hillside Avenue Bridge, we have spoken about it before. At the special meeting that we had in August, we approved a resolution supporting the filing of a grant to get monies under the Bridge New York program for the Hillside Avenue grant. The Village of Mamaroneck did the actual filing. It has been filed, and hopefully we'll get about $3 million. I say hopefully, but, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? Crawford Park, we just passed the secret resolution, and everything is proceeding apace with all 4 of our sub-projects, the pavilion, the mansion, the sensory garden, and the playground. So that's what's happening there. And Paul, do you want to just briefly bring us up to date on legal? Tell us the final numbers on the
I'm
on the
very
sale?
happy to report that yesterday concluded our class of 2015 interims. So I know that was September 19th, and we commenced this action in August of 2015. Just to give you an idea how long it takes. This year was unusual in that we actually took title to 6 properties, and we had an auction, and 2 of them were auctioned off, and 4 of them were sold to the prior owner at a number determined by this board. The net. So what I did was I have factored in what we received from the purchaser. I've deducted what the taxes were due, and in one case, there was a lien we paid off as per an agreement. So the net to the town was $693,590.70. That's almost $700,000 in net profit. I don't use the term profit, but net additional revenue to the town of Rye for 2015. So it's an extraordinary year as far as interims go. Having done this for 8 years now, this was certainly the most we've ever generated revenue-wise. And in addition, everybody else paid their taxes. So in other words, the 6 that weren't taken by the town were, paid in full. So they were all redeemed. So that's,
Okay, class of 2016.
all right, so the class of 16, we just filed last week. There are, I think, 20 properties. And I'll tell you in a year, if we make any money. I don't think we're going to take as many. But again, it's hard to predict. I didn't see this coming, so you never know with people.
You never know. And this is outside of the rent we collected.
That's right. I
Because
didn't
Debbie-
factor in on 2 properties, you're right, 626 Halsted and on 70 Grace Church, we did collect rent for 2 months from tenants. So you're right, I didn't factor in the rent, which would be.
Debbie, how much rent was the gross rent? Do you recall?
I didn't total it all out. I don't know the answer to that. So I know 70 Grace Church, we were looking at well over $5,000 a month
Right, and I
in
think
rent.
at 626 Halsted, we got 5,000 1 month from the office.
Just from the guy who lost the
You're right.
building.
So.
I don't understand that one.
I don't either.
The guy had an office in the building, we
Yeah,
made up a
anyway.
rent bill, we gave it to him and he paid it.
We probably, we probably exceeded the 700,000 with the rent, I'm sure. So, yeah, it was a positive cash flow for the town going forward. Because
As I
we're way
said-
over what we budgeted. I would not recommend putting this number in for next year's budget. I put in maybe 100,000 if that.
No, I mean, but at any rate, we'll have a larger cash balance, even though we're not gonna budget for this. We're gonna
Right.
start off with a more
Yeah.
positive number.
And we don't know yet where the mortgage tax revenues are and where that will end up, given what we
You know,
budgeted.
that worries me because the figures for the first half were under projections.
Right, right. But
Okay.
then the budget process starts this month, I believe, right?
We are starting.
Okay, fine.
All right. Comments from the council?
I guess I just wanted to follow up because I know a few months back, when we were in Rhinebeck, we had voted on a consultant to advise us on different grants that were available.
Yes.
Yes, and I just wanted to follow up and see if we had any updates from the consultant as to different.
Actually, we're trying to set up a meeting. I sent an email. Did you set up that meeting?
She'd like to meet the first week of October, and we haven't clarified the date yet.
All right.
And she has she has a number of projects that she thinks are real possibilities. She's looking at money for the ball field at Crawford Park and the path at Crawford Park. There are monies for cemeteries that she's asked for us to assist her with an intern to do some research on a couple of our cemeteries, which I'm preparing to do.
Oh, great. No,
So-
that's great. I think we really should open the door to see what we're capable of getting and how we can make
Yeah, well, that's-
improvements.
You know,
And, just advise me as to when the meeting. I'll try to make it as well.
Sure.
it's always nice to do nice improvements with other people's money.
Exactly. It's free money.
It's actually not, it's our money. It's our money. It's taxpayer money, but we're giving that to the state and we're trying to get some back. So that's always good. Better that we do the improvements without increasing our tax levy whenever possible. Right? Anything else?
Oh, and I guess, I'm so sorry, I know we're kind of on a time restriction, but I did want
No,
to.
we're not. We can be here all night long.
Bite your tongue.
The stormwater management, I know that's Billy's project with Avon Circle and that,
And the middle school.
and the middle school. Has there been any update or any?
Yes, do you want to tell them?
You can tell, it's fine.
We have entered into an IMA, finally executed by the school district, the town, and the village of Rybrook. The village of Rybrook is negotiating with county planning, and hopefully, we'll get an approval fairly soon. And getting the school district to sign last week, actually, was the final step to get all the paperwork done. Now, it's up to the county, and And Billy and I will keep the pressure on, right, Bill?
Really, the last two things we're waiting on now is a positive recommendation from county planning, which should be a no-brainer. And then the approval from the Board of Legislators to provide the funding.
Actually, before that, it also has to be approved by the Stormwater Advisory Board,
Right.
okay?
That's
And
actually, that's actually who it is, the Stormwater Advisory Board.
The
has to-
Stormwater Advisory Board. Luckily, one of the members of the Stormwater Advisory Board is Chris Bradbury. So we'll have an advocate there.
Yeah, so we should be in good shape, but that's the good news. The bad news is that we missed any work in 2016, which I'm very disappointed. But I'm happy that the process is still moving forward. So hopefully when the weather breaks in 2016, we can start to go to work there.
Really, we're doing the planning now. Dolph Feld is the engineer of record. We're doing the planning. And when we get it basically shovel-ready, in addition to county funds, we're going to also, at that point, use our grant writer to apply for state and possibly federal funds for stormwater management. Because there are state funds available for that in both CDBG and other areas. So that's what you'll be working on next.
Very excited. So I know that, Councilman Villanova has been relentless on this, and I'm glad it's paying off.
Absolutely.
too.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, no, I'm sorry,
Whoop.
just a couple with Tom?
No, I'm fine.
I'm glad you mentioned stormwater. We are very happy that it's plugging along very well. Start with the negative. Number one, very disappointed to see the tone on the Ride Town Park Commission board. We went, Tom, Hope, Paul, we've experienced a Ride Town Park Commission board that, in the past, that was robust, forward-thinking. Everybody was not always in agreement, but definitely always, the tone was very good, was very positive. And, I feel bad for the supervisor and what he puts up with at this Ride Town Park Commission board. For lack of a better term, I think it's very, it's disheartening to see what happens here. And the reason why our meeting here started an hour and a half late is because of the Ride Town Park Commission. I don't know what's happening there, but I really hope that the commission comes into, some kind of an agreement relatively soon, and stops the divisiveness. And it's a constant battle, and it's not good for the board, and it's definitely not good for the members of the community to watch that. I'm a little disappointed, and I really feel bad that the supervisor has to go through that every month, because that's not what it should be about. Gary's a very proactive guy who's always looking to do the right thing for the parks, and I know that Ride Town Park is something that Gary wants to take a lot of pride in. It just seems like he's having a difficult go every month, and so I'm a little disappointed to see that. The other thing is starting the meetings an hour and a half late. It's the only reason why Councilman Baxter's not here. So I'm wondering if maybe we need to rethink two things. Either the start time for the board meeting, if it has to be the same night as the Park Commission meeting, we have to start at 8 o'clock at the earliest. If not, we got to do a different night. Only because we shouldn't keep going into this. We shouldn't keep going down the same path. That's what they say is insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing and hope the thing doesn't change.
I'm in agreement with you.
All right.
Billy, first of all, thank you for those comments. And if I'm in any way responsible for that, the conflict on the commission, then I am certainly apologize for that. You're right, my attitude is to try to get things done. And I think that, at some point, we we need to reevaluate how that commission operates
Yeah.
with all of us.
I think you're doing a great job.
Thank
You're
you.
being proactive, you're defending the town very well, you're being, having some good focus, forecasting everything with Rydtown Park, and I wish everybody else would step in line with you.
Thanks, I appreciate
And
that.
I mean, just as sort of the complete opposite, if you look at what, we all get along, we work very well together. And look at what's going on with Crawford Park, which you're spearheading and doing a fantastic job spearheading and moving at the speed of lightning some days. But, we're doing wonderful things. We're building the sensory garden. We're doing the brand-new playground, which will be able to, have children, it's handicapped accessible, so it's inclusive. The restoration that's done to the beautiful mansion. I mean, that's sort of what happens when people work together and get together. And, I wish they could do the same with Rydtown Park, because I think that could really be a wonderful place.
Well, it is a wonderful place, and thank you, Lindsay. As far as the meeting dates go, or times go, personally, I would rather have the meeting of the commission not on the same day as the council meeting. It's a lot of burden on Debbie and myself especially, and Paul, maybe to a little lesser extent, to get ready for two meetings in one night. Especially if both meetings have a lot of items on the agenda that require discussion. Tonight, for example, we did not here at the council, but it's not always that way. So I'm going to give thought to changing at least the commission meetings and talk to the other commissioners and see if we could rotate it somewhat and have it on a day that, if it's more convenient for the other commissioners, a day when the city of Rye or the village of Portchester or the village of Rybrook have their meetings, if their mayors wish to have it on the same day, or have it on a totally different night, that when none of us are. I mean, that may be a proper solution. I don't know. That's for discussion, and I'll discuss it with the commissioners and, of course, with Paul and Debbie, because Paul and Debbie come to both of those meetings. So,
Councilwoman Jackson put up a good point. I mean, with all the positive things that we're doing, we brought in over $400,000 of grant money to Crawford Park for multiple projects. Now imagine if the Rydtown Park Commission would come in lockstep and make the effort. I mean, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $1 million to Rydtown Park. Wouldn't that be great? That's what we need, instead of fighting. And it's a little disappointing
Bill,
to watch it.
we do have a grant
I know.
application in. And if you'll recall, even that grant application passed by a 4-2 vote. 2 people voted against even filing an application for a grant.
Exactly.
So,
Again,
know.
disappointing. So, on a positive note, Hopi, ready for this?
Yep.
Okay, the Columbus Day Parade in Portchester is October 9th. Lineup is at 1:30 on Westchester Avenue in Hawthorne. We look to have everybody there, all the kids come out. It's a great parade. You get to see Hope out there with her beautiful smile. That's all I have.
and you forgot one thing. Who's being honored?
Oh, being honored is Chief Conway from the Portchester Police Department. So
A great guy.
everybody better be on their best behavior that day, including you, Mr. Burns.
Unfortunately, I'll be up in Lake George that weekend.
Enjoy it.
I'm planning to,
It's
You bring the
funny.
8 dogs with you?
bringing 3 dogs with us.
What
What
about the
about
other
the
5?
Well, they'll be at home.
Oh,
Speaking of dogs, I think we have to welcome Mr. Noto's beautiful puppy.
so now I have another puppy.
A
We got one.
gorgeous,
So
God.
tired.
beautiful lab, beautiful lab.
Little
Trying to catch
Angelo.
up to me?
Huh?
You trying to catch up to me?
No, Tom, I could never catch up to you. 2's enough. 1 was enough. 2's plenty.
Hold on, wait, you don't have any kids
And
at
I-
home, do you?
No, I'm worse. I have 2 dogs. It's worse than having kids.
Well, no, I'm saying, why would you be getting a new dog now?
It's a good question. You'll have to discuss that with my
He's so
bride.
cute, though. You have to see the pictures.
Your wife was talking to my wife, that's
We
what
we
it
are,
was.
we are dog people, but I,
Oh, and I believe it's the first anniversary of the dog park this Saturday, the
Oh, that's right.
Portchester Dog
Yeah.
Park.
Right.
And they're having a little soiree as
Oh,
well.
that's nice.
Yes.
But I wanted to, and I apologize for keeping this going, but now that you brought off Chief Conway, actually, he came to my office a few weeks ago. He brought his interns to see the labs and research in the forensics lab. And I was really impressed by all the work he did with that internship program and mentoring the kids. And I think it's fantastic. They're honoring him.
No, he's a great guy, he really
He has
is.
quite a bio also. Yeah.
That's great, okay.
Besides
Did we have a motion to adjourn? Did we already adjourn? Is this post adjournment?
no, you haven't done it yet.
No,
Okay, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, good night.
So I saw you.